Shop the Sherwin-Williams Super Sale and get 40% off paints and stains September 19th through the 24th. With prices starting at $29.39, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, USA Today's NFL wire site that covers the Arizona Cardinals, and this is episode 700, the 700th episode that we've had since we started in 2013. And it is, this time it is not with Seth. It is not with Seth because this is our opponent preview show. And joining me this time is one of Seth's guys over at SB Nation's Niners Nation is Kyle Posey. Kyle, welcome to the show for the first time. I'm glad to finally, I've heard a lot about you from Seth. How you been, man?
I'm glad that I'm doing an episode, a monumental episode, and taking Seth's spot. That means a lot to me. I'm going to rub that in.
It happens to be because usually I often do this recording before I record with Seth, and we recorded last night. So that one was $699, and this one is 600 instead of doing $699 and then doing 700 with Seth. So, hey, I'm happy to have you on. We're going to talk a little bit for San Francisco 49ers, a game. I look at this game with these two teams, 2-0 teams who I'm guessing we have a lot of questions about both teams, about whether or not the 2-0 start is sustainable. A lot more people believe in the 49ers clearly, but the injuries they're dealing with, they got Mac Jones and Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall and Luke Farrell. That's not the group that we anticipated the start of the year being. So through 2 weeks, even though they're 2-0, what is the feeling around Niners Nation?
I think the fact that they were able to get out of week 2 with a win is pretty much just a sigh of relief right there, right? You don't want to drop a game against the Saints, and Arizona, you guys took care of them. But there's some optimism, and even with the injuries during today, Kyle Shanahan actually said that they were contemplating on using what could be their 6th IR designation, which is insane to say in week 2.
That's
but
early, man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Despite all that, though, the fact that they've had the success that they have on both sides of the ball, so there's some hesitant optimism, I would say, so far.
So we'll start on the offensive side of the ball. What looked at Mac Jones, like Kyle Shanahan does this. I know it happens because he did it with Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard. But he makes quarterbacks look like they're really, really good. Now, Mac Jones definitely has talent. What was different offensively having Mac Jones back there against the Saints than it would have been with Brock Purdy? What do you see any noticeable difference in their play?
So I think Brock has just a little more gunslinger to him. I think that he wants to throw the ball down the field more, so he's hunting for the big play more so than Mac, where Mac looks like he's comfortable checking it down and throwing the 5-yard route where and in his defense, Jones did have a couple plays where he did throw the ball down the field, which was surprising, I think, to everybody involved. But still, the mobility would definitely be the biggest area where you notice. So there were times last week where I'm timing it, and Mac Jones has the ball after 4 seconds. So hey, throw the ball. People can hit you. What are you doing? Throw the ball. So that was a big one. But I would say those three, just throwing the ball down the field more so than the average quarterback, and open or willingly using your legs to scramble, because that is something Brock Purdy does like to do, and that's just not what Mac Jones's game is at this point.
Saints game. I was impressed at their game plan against the Cardinals. And I last week, honestly, because of the injuries that the 49ers had, I actually had the Saints as a pick to beat, as an upset pick for the week. And ultimately the Niners did win and cover, but the Saints kind of showed, I think they're this year they're that good bad team. Like, I don't think that they're a good team at all. They're still a bad team with a bad roster, but Brandon Staley and that defense, and I think they're going to be a plucky team that's going to, and with a terrible, awful start to the season, have to play the Cardinals, the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the
Right.
Bills in
Good luck.
consecutive weeks. And so they're going to be 0-4 for sure. But I think people are going to come away from those games and thinking this is a competitive bad team.
Which is what you want, right? You want to at least be able to make it interesting, keep yourselves in games, have some hope at the end of the season. Like, hey, we kept it close with those potential playoff teams, so we can have something to build on and talk about in the offseason. But yeah, no, I agree. They were pesky. They didn't go away last week, even when it seemed like the 49ers could have pulled away. They hung around.
So we go to the offensive side of the ball. Christian McCaffrey obviously is the focal point. Through 2 games, workhorse, leads the NFL with 50 touches, but his play has been less dynamic. Does he look different, or is it just the way that teams are playing him? 3.5 yards a carry is uncharacteristic of him, but he's still pacing for over 2,000 scrimmage yards through 2 games.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, that was honestly the talk of August, right? Well, is Christian McCaffrey as fast as he once was? Well, no player is going to be as fast as they once were, especially coming off an Achilles injury. He looks like a good running back, though. He knows where to go, right? He might not be busting out these 25, 45, 50-yarders like he was in 2023, but he's still getting the job done. I honestly think it's more so the blocking that's giving him fits. So there are a few plays where there's 2 guys not blocking anybody, or 1 guy just flat out whiffing. So I wouldn't really blame McCaffrey for the shortcomings on offense so far, at least on the ground, because whenever there is something there, he just makes the most out of it. So he's still very good. He still looks like the MVP caliber player was a couple of years ago. Is that a guy who's going to be this explosive player? Maybe not, but you wouldn't notice that, I guess, is what I would say.
And what is that offensive line situation this week? I know Bart's just went on IR. Burford's been limited, or he wasn't practicing in the week. Are there going to be 2 backup guards starting?
There's a good chance. Yes. So their starter. So as you mentioned, Bart's went on the IR earlier this week. He played 10 snaps last week. They used a 7th-round rookie in his place, and he actually performed really well, but he got hurt in practice on Thursday. So that means they could be down to an undrafted free agent or a guy that they cut who they had to bring back because of March's injury. So that's what we're looking at, and that spells trouble when I'm thinking about it, because just looking how the Cardinals kind of move around their pass rushers, basically playing with 4 edge guys at a time if it's not Calais Campbell on the field. So I would imagine they're going to hunt that backup, or even honestly the 7th router, because this is still his 2nd game. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on.
What we noticed in the last game, and through 2 games, Pooney has not been the player that he was as a rookie. So the guard play has been less good than it has been in the past. Granted, anytime you've got Trent Williams as your left tackle, you know that blind side is taken care of. But what has been the interior play thus far?
Yeah, I think that's spot on about Pooney. So he was on the injury report with a knee injury, and people are saying, oh no, he's playing with a knee injury. It doesn't look like he's being limited by somebody who's hurt. I think he's just messing up, for lack of better words, right? He's just not playing to the level that we saw him last year. When I'm talking about the plays where people are missing blocks, I'm talking about Pooney. Like, that's the player who's got to mess up. And oddly enough, Trent Williams has too. There was one play last week where he just outright tripped over somebody. I mean, there's not much you can do about that. But when I say there are some head-scratching plays in the running game, it doesn't really make sense. So maybe it's not sustainable. But I think the overall interior, like Pooney it looks like he's taking a step back. It's early, but their center's pretty good. Their right tackle, they do need to help him out pretty much every time they drop back to pass. Colton McKivitz is a bit of a liability in pass protection, which does put more pressure on everybody else, especially Trent Williams, who I assume is going to go against Josh Sweat quite a bit this week.
On the defensive side of the ball, where is tons of turnover in the offseason. So it's while it's still Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, what does that defense look like? Obviously, Robert Saleh returned. Is there much difference? Like, how does it look through 2 games so far? Is the scheme intact, or are there a little bit of growing pains with so many changes?
It's a little bit of both, right? So they're playing some youngsters all over the place. And when you're starting 2 rookies in the secondary, there's bound to be some coverage busts and some mistakes, missed tackles, etc. And that's happening. But I think they're also ahead of schedule. Like Michael Williams is playing very well. When he's not on the field, they look like the team from last year. When he is on the field, they look like a team that can actually stop a run. So that he's been a big upgrade in that sense. They're still breaking in their second rounder, Alfred Collins. He went from playing 9 snaps in week 1 to 24 last week. He looks really good, or I should say he looked really good last week. Ideally, he keeps on trending in the right direction. So up front, they're just worlds better than they were a year ago, but largely because they have NFL-capable bodies. They went from 275, 280-pound defensive tackles to a guy like Collins who weighs 335 pounds. So that's going to make a big difference. Again, like they're coming at you in waves too. So like they have Bryce Huff coming off the bench in their pass rushing situations. But I think their linebacker play has been really superb. That's where they're really separating. Like Fred, everybody knows about Fred Warner, but D. Winters is a guy who's really taken the next step through 2 games as well. So they look really good on the front 7, and it's really just about limiting the big plays. So if they can do that, I think they're going to have a good shot.
Bosa, at least through 2 games, it appears that he looks more like the dominant player that he was, as opposed to last year where he's good, but he wasn't taking over games. I felt like it was his play last year.
Yeah, it's crazy. I said like 7 defensive players and none of them was Nick Bosa. He does look very good, yes. And that's kind of the reason why I don't mention him, just because I think that's the expectation with his contract and given his status. But yeah, like it helps to when offenses don't have to, when the defense actually has other capable bodies around you, that they can't help only Bosa. So they're moving him around much more, and he just looks better. You're right. He just looks fresher. I don't know if that's an early season thing. I don't want to say he looks more motivated, because that will make it seem like that wasn't the case in previous years, but he's winning, and it stands out when you're winning. And he's been close to a lot more sacks than he's actually had, which is a telling sign. But no, he looks like a player that's primed for a defensive player of the year run.
And then they made the move finally. They let go of Jake Moody. Eddie Pinheiro, how has he been as Moody's replacement? And my goodness, what is it about kickers? What is it about the drafted kickers that were so good in college that they just can't do it in the pros? Because Moody's struggles made absolutely no sense. He was by far the best kicker in the draft, playing for a big-time program with big moments, and he can't hack it in the NFL? I never understood that.
Yeah, he was lights out, and they were like a national championship team too. So that I have no idea. So Pinheiro, I'm pretty sure he missed his first extra point. Everybody's like, oh
no,
here we go again. But he made his next 2 kicks, and he made the other 2 extra points after that. So ideally, this is the last time we have to talk about a kicker. I mean, in 49ers land, because Moody has taken up so much empty time of ours. It's a kicker. That's all you do in practice. Kick it through the uprights. Like, what else do we need to say? Like, what else do we need to see? Do your job.
And that's when you get Peyton Manning talking about Mike Vanderjagt as that idiot kicker.
Right. Right.
Gotta remember that, man. All right, coming up next on the Rise of Zero podcast, Mr. Cardinals talking. Let's move on and talk about this matchup. What are the keys for success for both teams? What are the matchups we're going to be watching most? That's coming next on the Rise of C-Red.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
We're back on the Rise of Seer podcast. Mr. Cardinals Talk on the web, talking to Kyle Posey of Niners Nation, SB Nation's San Francisco 49ers site. And now we get to talk about this particular matchup. I know for the Cardinals, their wins over the Panthers and the Saints were expected. But the way that they won, because they came down to the wire, we're left with some questions. And I know so this is kind of the first kind of test. The Niners had the benefit of playing a Seattle team in week 1. Clutch touchdown pass to Jake Tunges, only to have Seattle go down the field, nearly win it, but for Sam Darnold be Sam Darnold, with Nick Bosa being Nick Bosa. So what are going to be the keys for both sides? Like, if San Francisco wins this game, how do you see it going down? What are they going to do well? And if the Cardinals are going to win this game, how would they do it against the Niners?
I would imagine if the Cardinals are able to win this game, it's because they're able to probably force Mac Jones into some turnovers. They're probably going to win the battle up front. So we're going to see whether it's Browning, whether it's Sweat, just the defensive line control, and probably get some sacks, maybe strip sacks. He had one last week where, again, he's holding onto the ball for longer than 4 seconds. I would also imagine Kyler has one of those magical runs that are just annoying where he's running for like 13 seconds back and forth and then breaks it down the field. I would assume they're going to have to get Marvin Harrison involved in some capacity. So true wide receiver ones are the types of players that, I mean, they give any defense troubles, but they for whatever reason, they give the 49ers troubles more than most. I know Trey McBride's like a very good player, but they have the bodies, like the linebackers down the middle, to stop that type of player, where I don't know if that's true for a player like Marvin Harrison. So it would be a Marvin Harrison kind of game. And again, probably maybe a Trey Benson busts one. Maybe James Conner has one of those 20 carries. Maybe it's 90 yards, but he has some runs where he's running over people and there's 6 and 7 yards and they're able to pick up first down. So that's how I envision the Cardinals coming out ahead here.
San Francisco wise, what are they going to try to do? Like Robert Sullivan is going to say he's going to have a lot of little mouse traps for Kyler Murray. And I know that's a fun play on words because he's a little guy.
Right. I love that, by the way.
So what do you expect to see from the defense against Kyler?
Yeah, I would assume they're going to take away it's weird because Tyler's not really throwing the ball down the field so far. So I don't know if that's a count and mass game and they come out and they're just heaving it down the field. I don't know, but I would assume that Kyler has to check it down, and then they lose on third down. So if they're consistently losing on third down, right, and they're behind the chains, it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 every drive, that leads to maybe the Cardinals stalling. But at the same time, the 49ers are more of a bend but don't break defense. So there's going to be a give or take with how patient is Kyler. Are they able to create separation underneath with guys like McBride and Dortch? So if they are able to do that and turn it into 3rd and, hey, now we might be able to use Kyler's legs. Now we might be able to use Connor, maybe Benson in the screen game. So I think they're going to have to stay ahead of the change in that sense. And honestly, on the other side of the ball, I have no idea what to expect from their secondary because I have no idea who's playing in the secondary. So
and I would doubt that's going to be the biggest question mark. You've got a depleted pass catching group for the Niners. So George Kittle. Now, is Jennings playing? I didn't catch that on the injury report.
Yeah, did not practice all week, is technically questionable, but Shanahan is pretty strict when you don't practice, you don't play. So if you're not practicing on Friday, outside of Nick Bosa and Trent Williams, you're probably not going to play. So I would imagine we do not see Juwan Jennings, which makes it very difficult because already down Brandon Ayuk, their rookie wide receiver who was scheduled to make his debut this week, Jordan Watkins, got hurt in practice yesterday. So now he is probably going on the IR as well. So fun times. Yeah, fun times in receiver land. Now it's pretty much down to Ricky Pearsall and a couple guys that they just signed off the streets.
Ricky Pearsall against that's
the world.
That's a good match. That's a good matchup in terms of the fact the Cardinals are going to be, because all 3 of their starting cornerbacks, they're not playing because Garrett Williams is on injured reserve. Will Johnson doubtful. He didn't practice all week, and especially as a rookie, he's not going to play. Max Melton limited all week, and so and I don't know. If one's going to play, it's going to be him. But we're looking at a likely a trio of cornerbacks where it's going to be rookie Denzel Burke, 2023 6th-round pick Keitrell Clark, and journeyman. A guy who hasn't played a single defensive snap. Actually, who has not yet played an NFL snap in his career, in Elijah Jones, 3rd-round pick last year, because he was on IR last year and he was inactive the last 2 weeks. So we might see Elijah Jones' NFL debut. And so I guess in terms of matchup, no cornerbacks, no receivers. Give the ball to Christian McCaffrey 30 times.
Right. Honestly, he's going to have like 10, 15 targets probably. They're going to have to find ways to get him involved. Shanahan did a good job last week of just mixing up little screens to tight ends and passes to the other players on the roster. But, I mean, I would imagine the Cardinals are going to go out of their way to, like, hey, if you want them to beat us, by all means, go for it. So if I were them, I'd go out of my way to have extra eyes on Pearsall. Maybe get extra eyes on McCaffrey in the passing game. And then if I go down swinging with the other guys who, again, like they're not even being looked at, like Mac Jones, Brock Purdy, whoever's under center, like he's not going out of his way to throw the ball to Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the year 2025. So I would imagine.
You're like, I guess I got to throw it there
right,
sometimes.
Right. He doesn't seem overly willing, though, that's for sure.
And so matchups. Who do you think is the corner that's likely going to be lined up against Marv in this game?
The way that it's gone for the first 2 weeks, it's been Renardo Green. I know Lenore has the bigger contract, but they're leaving Green on an island. So I would imagine him. He has like just better long sleeve. He has just a better body to match up with those type of wideouts. Lenore's on the smaller side. He's playing outside for the first time in his career this year. So I think they're kind of protecting him. Would imagine, again, just the way it's gone for the first 2 weeks, that's a Renardo Green matchup.
And obviously, you look at Nick Bosa versus the Cardinals tackles. I know he will rush from both sides, so it won't be just Paris. It'll be a little Jonah Williams, a little bit of Paris Johnson, and then obviously on the other side, can Josh Sweat, did Baron Browning do anything against Trent Williams, or are they just going to have to see where their wins come against McKivitz?
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers, they've gone out of their way to protect Colton McKivitz with tight ends, with running backs. They are not going to let him be the one to beat him, even though he did give up a sack last week. Part of that was on the quarterback, but like he can be had. And you mentioned Browning and Sweat just inching out a win against Trent Williams. He's actually been a little susceptible this year, honestly. Maybe Father Time's finally catching up to the legend, but I don't know. I would imagine their biggest advantage for the Cardinals is in those matchups right there, especially on the edge, especially if you can get one of those edge guys matched up against their interior players as well.
Coming up next on the Res of Series podcast, Mr. Cardinals Talk on the Web. Let's move on to talking about the matchups. Let's talk predictions. What do we expect to see? That's coming up next on Rise Up See Red.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Back on the Rise of Series podcast, Mr. Cardinals Talk on the Web. Still talking to Kyle Posey from SB Nation's Niners Nation. And we look at this game. We've talked what the Niners have done through 2 games. We've talked the matchups, keys, prediction time. I personally think this is going to be a plotty, ugly game between – that's just what the Cardinals have been doing offensively. They've just been really methodical and boring. It's not been exciting at all. And with the dearth of receivers that the 49ers have, with the Christian McCaffrey focal point, it feels like this is going to be a real plotty dink and dunk game, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of has to, right? Like based on the personnel, it kind of necessitates that. Based on how the offensive lines have looked, how the defensive pass rushes have looked on both sides, I would assume we're going to see a lot of hot potato from the quarterback. So, yeah, I agree. Which, like, that's probably not going to lead to many points because it's going to take them 9, 10, 12 play drives, and that's just so tough to do in the NFL. So yeah, I would agree. I would imagine if it's a fantasy game, a lot of PPRs, a lot of catches for the running backs and tight ends underneath.
Yes, yeah. I personally have I'm bullish on the Cardinals this year. The way they were, while the end of the games got interesting, they were never not in control of those games. So I've got the Cardinals eking out a 3-point game, 23-20. How do you see this game playing out?
So I put my prediction, and I think it's going to be 24-20 Niners. I think they're going to have just enough firepower. I mean, I think the world of Shanahan just as a play caller, and he always seems to get them in the right situations. So I think they're going to find success. It's a tough challenge for both teams. I guess the easier way to put it is it's a step up in class for both teams because they really haven't played anybody. Like the Saints are not a good team. The Panthers are the most unserious team imaginable. So I think there's going to be a little shock factor in that sense. So maybe both offenses might maybe start out faster and the defenses adjust as the game goes on. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to which play caller is going to be able to lead their team to that one scoring drive. And I'm going to take Shanahan. So that's how I get to 24-20.
In terms of play performance, how do you see Mac Jones's numbers appearing in this game?
So I mean, they threw it a ton last week, which was pretty surprising, honestly. I think they threw it like 39 times or something like that. But assuming the Cardinals sit back and play zone, like that's plays right into his hands because he does have physical limitations, but those really aren't going to show up if you're just running zone coverage. Obviously, these could be complex coverages, but unless the Cardinals are going to roll out and play man coverage with their 4th and 5th string cornerbacks, it's gonna fare better for Mac Jones. So I would imagine anywhere from like 230 to 240, and ideally no turnovers because that's probably another. If he has a sack fumble like he did last week against the Saints, I don't think the Cardinals are going to be able to. I guess I would say I don't think the Cardinals won't take advantage of that because the Saints didn't, and I think the Cardinals are good enough to take advantage of that. So easy on the sacks and light on the turnovers.
Hey, McCaffrey traditionally has been a beast against the Cardinals. He's averaging, I think, 140 plus scrimmage yards and a touchdown and a half in 7 games that he's played against them. He's had 4 games of at least 95 yards. He's had, I think, 2-3 touchdown games. He's been monstrous against the Cardinals. The Cardinals, this year, less quality on the run block, little bit less dynamic running from McCaffrey so far, and the Cardinals' run defense has been pretty solid. How do you expect his performance to play out? I on the betting side, 69.5 yards is his projected total, and at rushing and receiving, they have him at 109.5. I think that one's real safe. Probably because of the workload. I mean, because of the workload, one way or the other, he's gonna get yards. But do you expect him to show a little more in terms of explosiveness in this game?
I would. So if that is the case, it will probably happen through the air because he is a dynamic receiver, and I think he does still put the fear in the eyes of like linebackers and safeties trying to guard him. So when you mention rush, like that's going to be difficult just because, like I said, they've had so many issues blocking where I don't know that to this point, like until we see it, can trust them blocking in the running game. But it feels the opposite in the passing game. Like they can throw it to him and it feels like a free 7-8 yards every time. So even receiving yards alone, I'd feel confident in that. But I think it's still going to be a work in progress because I do think the Cardinals have a better front. And like in my mind, athletes give the 49ers offensive line a bigger problem than like the bigger, stout type of players. And that's what Seattle has, is the guys who are run pluggers, so to speak. But guys who can move like the Cardinals have, I think they're going to create some more chaos than the 49ers are willing to have.
All right, Kyle, any bold predictions for this game? You've given your game prediction. But anything unexpected do you expect to see?
Unexpected. I do think both teams have been playing a little cat and mouse here. So I said Kyler has only thrown the ball down the field a few times. I think we're going to see a more aggressive Kyler. I actually think we're going to see a more aggressive side on both sides, or team on both sides, whether it's Mac Jones throwing the ball down the field more. Maybe this is the game where Christian McCaffrey does break one. So I'll go big plays on the ground for Christian McCaffrey and big plays through the air for Kyler.
All right. Kyle, thanks you for your time. You can find Kyle's work over at Niners Nation on Twitter, X. You find him at KP_show. But as always, you can find his work on Niners Nation, which is one of the sister sites for Revenge of the Bird, Seth's site. Kyle, thank you so much for your time. Next up, we will be back next week. Seth and I will, on a short week, we'll figure out the schedule before the Thursday night game. But until then, this is episode 700. That is Kyle Posey. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening. As always, we'll be back again soon.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise Up, See Red.